It's a common question. Why do many older adults, seemingly in good health, unexpectedly decline, not even reaching the age of 82? The reason isn't always heart disease, cancer, or tragic accidents. Often the root of the problem lies in a factor that remains in the shadows, underestimated, and sometimes frighteningly ignored. Years of medical experience reveal patterns that often escape even experienced specialists. What if the decisive factor in longevity after 60 isn't so much blood pressure, cholesterol, or physical fitness, but something else? What if the secret to a long and fulfilling life is hidden in what many older adults keep silent about, and others, unfortunately, reject out of shame, fear, or simple misunderstanding? Today we'll lift the veil and reveal the hidden mechanism for maintaining vitality, independence, and mental clarity far beyond 80, 90, and even 100 years. Surprisingly, this doesn't require expensive medications, grueling workouts, or complicated diets. This tool is already built into each of us. It's just waiting to be awakened. Recognizing the importance of this hidden aspect of health, it's essential to pay attention to one of the most subtle yet devastating threats that older adults face in the modern world. It's a silent epidemic that gradually steals vitality, weakens the body, and prematurely shortens life. We're talking about the loss of connection with physical pleasure. When meeting patients in their 70s and 80s, one often notices a quiet sadness in their eyes, a resignation that life has become somewhat truncated, cold, and less vibrant. Over the years, one develops the ability to recognize one of the most subtle yet destructive changes that occur with age. A gradual alienation from one's own body, from the physical sensations that once brought a sense of life and filled one with energy. This isn't something people usually talk about, but it happens everywhere, robbing men and women of their vitality often, without them even realizing it. At some point in life, society quietly whispers a dangerous lie. Intimacy, touch, and sexuality are the prerogative of the young, and after a certain birthday, you should forever close the door to this realm of human nature. Many older adults adopt this false belief, thinking that seeking or enjoying physical pleasure is inappropriate, shameful, or simply impossible. Some withdraw because of physical changes, others because of past emotional traumas or the loss of loved ones, and still others simply don't realize that it's not only possible, but also necessary to maintain health and vitality throughout life. Unfortunately, most don't realize that this alienation triggers a quiet downward spiral. The lack of regular stimulation leads to a decrease in blood flow to vital organs. The neural connections responsible for the sensation of pleasure begin to atrophy. Hormonal balance undergoes undesirable changes. As a result, the body gradually loses stability not only sexually, but also mentally, emotionally, and physically. Sleep becomes restless, mood darkens, and the supply of vitality inexorably dwindles. Over time, the immune system gradually weakens, and vulnerability to chronic diseases such as cardiovascular ailments, cognitive disorders, and depressive states increases imperceptibly. One can often observe how previously energetic people gradually lose their zest for life, not because of heart problems or brittle bones, but because of the lost vitality that once served as their reliable support. It's no exaggeration to say that physical pleasure, intimate closeness with oneself or a partner, is one of the fundamental elements that support human viability. Renouncing this important component out of fear, shame, or lack of information deprives one not only of joy, but also shortens the years of active life. However, hope always remains. Reconnecting with your body, awakening long-forgotten sensations, can initiate a healing process on a much deeper level than is usually imagined. It's never too late to rediscover the potential of your body. This can be the key to improving physical condition, mental clarity, and deep emotional resilience that one could only dream of before. But what exactly makes physical pleasure such a powerful protector of the brain, the cardiovascular system, and future independence? Years of observation have revealed subtle but significant changes in patients who maintained a connection with their bodies throughout their lives. The truth became clear. Maintaining physical pleasure isn't just a pleasant pastime, but an essential foundation for a long and healthy life. This may come as a surprise, especially if a person grew up in a society where such topics are discussed with awkwardness or even condemnation. However, biological processes prove to be stronger than social conventions, opening up a completely different perspective. After the age of 60, the body faces a natural decline in blood circulation, hormone production, muscle tone, and nerve function. Nevertheless, maintaining sexual activity demonstrates the ability to counteract many of these age-related changes. When a person in adulthood pays attention to sexual expression, even without a partner, the body reacts in an amazing way. Blood flow significantly increases in the brain, heart muscle, and limbs, providing nourishment to tissues that might otherwise begin to degrade. Endorphins are released into the bloodstream, naturally reducing stress levels and promoting restful sleep. Testosterone levels moderately increase, supporting muscle mass, bone density, and emotional stability, all of which are important factors for active aging. Perhaps even more significant is the impact on the brain. Neurobiological studies show that sexual pleasure simultaneously activates several areas of the brain, supporting neural connections responsible for memory, emotional regulation, and executive functions. Simply put, it helps the brain stay young, flexible, and active. Observations of patients who practiced sensual self-discovery showed impressive results. Clarity of thinking became sharper, creative potential increased, and even the perception of the world became more positive. These changes contrasted sharply with the condition of those who, on the contrary, accepted physical alienation as inevitable. However, beyond the obvious biological benefits, there is a deeper meaning in this process. It is an act of self-recognition, a way to affirm the enduring value of one's body, its need for care, tenderness, and pleasure. Thus, there is a confrontation with the destructive myth of aging as a steady decline. Instead, sensual self-discovery serves as a powerful reminder that life, even in adulthood, can remain fulfilling, rich, and deeply personal. Emotional connection with oneself often becomes a catalyst for larger positive changes. Diet improves, interest in social activities awakens, and a desire for physical activity and sports appears. When patients express doubts about whether it is too late to return to this area of life, the answer is always unequivocal. It's never too late. The body may need more time, patience, and delicacy, but it is still capable of providing deep, nourishing sensations that support vitality, strengthen the spirit, and prolong health, exceeding the most optimistic forecasts. It is quite natural to ask, if the benefits are so significant, why do so many older adults struggle to maintain this vital connection? The answer lies in a complex of hidden and often tragic misconceptions rooted in the mind. Throughout many years of practice, I have witnessed how strong and energetic men and women gradually become victims of subtle prejudices that slowly but surely undermine their vitality. Often they do not realize what is happening until they find themselves a pale shadow of their former selves. These beliefs are not just harmless delusions, but powerful invisible forces that push older people to abandon one of the most effective sources of health and well-being. One of the most common and sad misconceptions is the idea that physical pleasure loses its significance after a certain age. I can't count how many times I've heard the phrase, "I'm too old for that," spoken with a sad and humble smile. However, the truth is that age does not deprive the body of its abilities or its need for intimacy and touch. It only transforms the ways it is expressed. Abandoning this important part of oneself, based on the belief that it is inappropriate, is like living in a house with the lights constantly turned off. You can survive, but you miss out on a huge amount of warmth, light, and beauty. Another painful conviction is the idea that seeking pleasure in solitude is something shameful and reprehensible. Many people grew up in an era when it was spoken about in whispers, with awkwardness, or considered a moral crime. These outdated attitudes can be deeply ingrained in the mind, forming layers of guilt that persist even in old age. But it should be emphasized with complete certainty. Taking care of your body is natural and should not cause feelings of shame. Awakening sensuality and sexuality is not only permissible, but a necessary expression of respect for one's own existence, physical health, and emotional well-being. Unfortunately, there is a dangerous misconception that abstaining from sexual energy helps preserve vitality. In reality, the opposite is true. Regular sexual activity, including solitary practices, has a beneficial effect on the body, stimulating hormone production, improving blood circulation, and supporting tissue health. Just as a muscle atrophies without exercise, intimate parts of the body need regular stimulation to maintain their vitality and energy. Perhaps the most harmful myth is that sexual health exists separately from the overall health of the body. In fact, these spheres are closely interconnected, and modern scientific research only confirms this interdependence. Caring for one aspect of health inevitably has a positive impact on another, and neglecting one leads to the decline of both. Recognizing these misconceptions is the first step towards restoring a full and vibrant life. However, knowledge alone is not enough. A clear and effective strategy is needed to restore harmony with one's own body, so that this process is natural, comfortable, and safe. Restoration Method. A step-by-step guide to regaining sexual vitality. Research aimed at finding ways to restore bodily connection in older adults has revealed that general recommendations are not always effective. A specific, reliable, and proven approach was needed. Not abstract ideas, but a practical methodology that could be followed with confidence. This led to the creation of the restoration method, designed specifically for the aging body. This method takes into account age-related changes and aims to revive the vital connection between mind and body that weakens over time. The first step is to create a favorable environment. It is important to organize a space where a person feels safe, comfortable, and protected from external stimuli. It is recommended to set a comfortable temperature, choose a comfortable chair or bed, and prepare a high-quality moisturizer. These seemingly minor details send a powerful signal to the body. Self-care is important, and health is worth the effort. The next step is relaxation. It is important to remember that this is not a competition or an obligation. It is recommended to start with deep breathing, allowing the muscles to relax and the heart rate to slow down. Feel the tension gradually leave the body, like sand slipping through your fingers. This simple act of mindful presence can unlock access to sensations that may have been considered lost forever. The final stage is awakening. At this stage, it is recommended to carefully explore those areas of the body that may have been forgotten for many years: the inner thighs, lower abdomen, chest. Touch them lightly, with curiosity, not judgment. Pay attention to even the slightest reactions of the body. These signals indicate that the body has not lost its vitality and retains a desire to interact with the world around it. It is like a quiet call waiting for an answer. Next comes the stage of targeted stimulation. Abandoning excessive pressure and unjustified expectations, gradually move to more direct contact, allowing sensual awakening to develop naturally and at a comfortable pace for the body. Smooth, conscious movements performed without haste allow you to reach a depth of sensation that is often overlooked in the hustle and bustle of everyday life. The key task here is not to quickly reach the end goal, but to enjoy the process itself, the unique experience that the body can provide. It is like the art of dance, where every step, every movement, every moment is important. The final step is to integrate the experience. At this moment, stop, take a deep breath, and express gratitude to yourself for taking care of your own well-being. Allow yourself to fully experience the feeling of life, however subtle or intense it may be. It is in this quiet recognition and acceptance of oneself that healing is born. This approach is not about returning to the past, but about accepting oneself in the present, with all the wisdom, experience, and tenderness that comes with age. And when even the slightest spark of restoration is felt, it will become clear how much potential is still hidden within. It is like discovering a precious stone hidden under a layer of dust. However, it should be recognized that the road to recovery is not always paved with roses. There are common obstacles that can derail you from the intended course. It's important to understand how to avoid the mistakes many older adults make, sometimes without even realizing it, in order to stay on the path to a long and fulfilling life. It's worth remembering that true change rarely happens linearly. It's natural to encounter moments of doubt, disappointment, or even discouragement. Often, this isn't due to a lack of desire to heal, but rather to unknowingly falling into traps that complicate the process. Knowing what to expect and how to react can be the deciding factor in whether a goal is achieved or abandoned. It's like navigating unfamiliar terrain, where knowing the map and how to orient yourself helps you avoid dangerous areas. One of the most common problems is unrealistic expectations. Many older adults naively believe that if they follow all the recommendations, they will immediately feel as they did in their youth. When this doesn't happen, disappointment sets in. However, it's important to understand that the body has undergone changes, and this isn't a failure, but merely a natural part of the life cycle. Success in this case isn't measured by the speed of achieving intense pleasure, but by the degree of restoring connection with one's own sensations, a sense of comfort, and a feeling of presence in the moment. Even slight improvements are a sure sign that healing is taking place on a deep level. It's like watching the growth of a small sprout that gradually breaks through the ground. Another serious obstacle is inconsistency. Like strengthening muscles or restoring flexibility, renewing sensual connection requires regular attention and practice. Practicing only occasionally, when the mood strikes, is like watering a plant once a month and expecting it to bloom. It's important to set aside time for activities 2 or 3 times a week, viewing it not as an onerous obligation, but as an expression of care and love for yourself. The body will definitely respond to this kindness in ways that will gradually begin to surprise and delight. It's like creating a favorable environment for the growth of a flower, which in gratitude will reward you with its beautiful bloom. Excessive focus on the end result is another hidden trap that can significantly slow down the recovery process. Overly concentrating on achieving a specific outcome when it comes to delicate matters often results in additional stress. Instead of the relaxation so necessary to achieve the desired result, involuntary muscle and vascular tension occurs, negating all efforts. It's advisable to abandon the obsessive idea that every attempt must necessarily lead to a certain outcome, and simply surrender to the process, allowing it to develop naturally. Even the slightest manifestations of pleasure are already small victories worthy of being celebrated, rather than compared with past sensations, remaining in memories of youth. You shouldn't also discount the deeply hidden feeling of shame, which can subtly undermine all endeavors. Often people carry ingrained beliefs for years, whispering, "This is indecent," or "I'm not supposed to want this." In the event of such thoughts, it's necessary to meet them with compassion and understanding, rather than with condemnation and self-flagellation. It's important to constantly remind yourself that the pursuit of pleasure isn't a manifestation of selfishness or frivolity, but a natural need, dictated by the desire to honor the wonderful body in which one continues to live. Overcoming these obstacles isn't an easy task, but the result is certainly worth the effort. Each step, each manifestation of patience and kindness towards oneself strengthens not only sexual energy, but also overall vitality and resilience of spirit. As confidence in one's abilities grows, one may feel ready for more, for a full restoration of health and vitality, with the help of simple but effective methods developed specifically for this stage of life. In conclusion, it should be emphasized that with age, there isn't a moment when the body, health, and the right to pleasure become irrelevant. Yes, they undergo changes, but in no way disappear without a trace. Returning to this important part of oneself isn't a pointless pursuit of elusive youth, but a manifestation of respect for the life that continues to smolder inside, for the strength that has supported you through decades of trials, and for the spirit that refuses to give up. Many people who have crossed the 60, 70, and even 80-year mark have managed to rekindle the spark they thought was extinguished forever. And along with it, they found renewed health, self-confidence, and joy of life. Everyone deserves such a rebirth. It all starts with a single decision: to believe that you are still capable, still worthy, still alive in every sense of the word. Start small, being patient and gentle with yourself. It is important to remember that every step taken towards reconnecting with your body is a step towards a future filled not just with more years lived, but with more life in each year. The story is still being written, and everyone has the opportunity to write it with the strength, dignity, and fullness they rightfully deserve to enjoy.